Hello, hello, hello. Let me know if everything works because this time it's a little bit of a different setup. Should work, but I just want to make sure. And yeah, welcome. Welcome. We're a little bit early, so we're just going to be shit talking for 3 minutes and actually get going. Great title. Thank you very much. Cred made it up. All credits to Cred. I could not come up with a title like this. So let me see if everything is working myself. Okay, you guys are saying it's working. Nice. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I do appreciate it. So yeah, we have like the 5-minute chart open. We'll fix that in a second. But yeah, it looks kind of shit. Been down only. Unsurprisingly, honestly, after we talked last, right? We talked about how the bounce was unfortunate, and yeah, looks even more unfortunate now. But we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Another fake breakout. I mean, it looks likely, but it's not guaranteed yet. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Yeah, before we start the show, shout out to FTX, the sponsor of the show. Really appreciate their support. You should check them out if you want to do anything on your mobile phone. They're basically the place to do it, in my opinion, anyway. So if you want to check those, check them out. The link is in the description. How low we go, we'll talk about it. That's the title of today's show is what if this crypto breakout fails? And we'll talk about what if. It's gonna be ugly though, so maybe we can meme ourselves into making a bottom. So yeah, high time frame wise, it doesn't really like nothing's changed, right? We had a little bit of a bounce into resistance. I'm still not biggest fan of that resistance on the monthly, but it's decent enough. And now it's pulling back a little, right? But so far, this is still a range. And I think it makes no sense to expect anything but a range at this point, just based on the fact how good this range has been, right? Anyone that hasn't expected a range has been losing. Do you have any open position? No, nothing. I'm closing the last. I've been hard at work selling my last NFTs. Because liquidity's just been shit. It took me forever to get out of it. I learned a bunch of lessons on the NFT side of things. If you guys want to hear that, let me know. I can put it at the end of the stream as well. Talk about the NFT story and how that went for me. Shorting? No, I cannot short. I talked about this before, but basically in the country I'm in, which is Germany, it's really, really difficult to short tax-wise. So it doesn't really make much sense for me. So I just sell when I'm bearish and buy back when I'm not bearish anymore. Okay, but weekly time frame. We ran into resistance, right? From support into resistance, and now we're pulling back. And as long as we hold 42K, it's not the end of the world, but this is pretty much the exact same picture that we have on daily that we'll talk about in a bit, which is basically we should not be retesting this, right? So whenever you have a breakout, and I've said this a million times before, but I'll just quickly say it again. You have like an important breakout. One of the things, like obviously you don't want to see it fall back immediately, but one of the other things that you don't want to be seeing is you go up and then you retest immediately. That is usually, at least in crypto, in other markets, not as much, but in crypto, it's usually a bad sign. What usually happens is you bounce a little and then you make a lower high and then you fuck off and then you actually break the range to the downside, right? So we should not be retesting 42K if this was a strong market, right? Whenever you have a strong market, you do not retest shit, besides a wick, of course. Wicks are fine always, but you can see like we had the breakout here, right? And we never retested it. We front ran it. Wicks, like I said, are fine, but closes at or below the level obviously are not. And in this case, the market ran up a shitload and then went back down again. But this was the first sign that there was actually strength in the market back then. Now we have a little bit of a different story, at least if we retest, because that's not as bullish as you may believe, right? Like the bullish retest or whatever, it's usually like a sign that people were not willing to pay as much, like the breakout prices basically, and price went all the way back there. And then you have a bunch of people that bought the breakout in trouble, right? And everyone that bought above 43, 42 at that point is underwater, and then it's easy to punish them by pushing price lower, right? And basically everyone that bought above there can easily get squeezed, right? So we don't really want to see this retest other than a wick. And I mean, it's 4 days left, so this could just be a wick, but it's not a good sign anyway. Hope you're not selling WASIs. I sold everything. I hold a bunch of WASIs still, but I sold a bunch of WASIs as well. I sold, NFT-wise, I sold pretty much everything that I had. Almost everything that I could sell anyway, but I'll talk about it in a bit. So yeah, we're pulling back to support, and I mean, this is an area where you could do business if you're really, really bullish. Wick-wise, like if you get a wick into 42K, I think that's a decent area to buy. This is basically, if you're short-term bullish, this is where you want to do business, right? You want to have bids at 42.4, 42.2, like roughly around 42K, right? So bids here, and you pray to God that this candle, the current one, just turns into a wick and closes green, right? That's kind of your bet if you're trying to play this currently. That's the bullish side of the coin. The bearish side of the coin is obviously we retest this, bounce a little, and then fall back into the range, and then you have the exact same setup that you had in here. This is just a larger range, right? So you had the range in here, you had a false range breakout, and that led to a 50% down move, right? And in this case, it's a smaller range with a potential false breakout, and this is what the title kind of alludes to, and that would lead to most likely at least 30K, in my opinion. So that's the bearish take. And I think the bearish take, given the daily, gets more and more convincing, because what the daily shows us is basically the largest pattern. And I mean, we can remove this. This doesn't really help much anymore. It was a really excellent line. This is why I have it, right? It was a really excellent line. This is what kind of led to the up move, 20% up move from 40K. Now it's not as important anymore. And basically what happened is we had a massive ascending triangle here, right? And that broke to the upside, and we had Do Kwon, the lunar guy, for the people that don't know who he is, buy a shitload of Bitcoin, and we had Sailor buy a shitload of Bitcoin. And what happened was basically that the entire breakout got faded. And I talked about this last week, where we basically just put in this week, was like, I really don't like the fact that we retested the breakout, and what we're doing now is retesting it again, which is not a good sign. So the only kind of chance to make this look good again is by turning this entire thing into a wick. So we have 9 hours left to show, okay, the bulls are back in town, this thing wants to go up, and that would be basically turning this entire red candle into like at least a tiny red candle, or even into a green one. But I'm not entirely sure if that's going to happen. In other markets, 65% of breakouts retest. In crypto, stuff just runs. It's just how this market works. If it's strong. If it's not strong, it doesn't. Doug, your advice on not shorting projects that are mega pumping and focusing on those that are the weakest has been the Bible to me. Great advice. Happy to help you, man. For the people that don't know what he's talking about, I'm basically like, when you have like a market outlier that is pumping strongly, people always tend to try to short it instead of trying to get on board. And usually you get fucked if you try to short stuff that pumps hard. So yeah, what if this is a false breakout, right? So what if this entire thing is just the exact same thing as we had above 60K? And in my opinion, the only kind of realistic target, if that is the case, would be the support down here, which is 33 to 34K, right? Because what you basically been doing is, and I mean, you can see this in this market over and over and over again, you go above the range and then you fall back into it, and then you almost always go to the bottom of the range, right? And given that this is the low time frame range and this is the high time frame range, right? They both have the same lower boundary, basically. Just makes sense to kind of go back to the lower boundary if this is a false breakout to the upside, right? If we start closing back below 44K today and the day after, then you start going into, okay, you kind of have to target the lower boundary of the range. And yeah, this lower boundary has been tested a lot, so it depends on whether we get like someone like a billionaire ready to buy everything up or not. If we don't get that, we're in trouble at that point because the support's been tested a shitload. And then we could see one of my favorite setups, which is this is the range right now. What we've basically been doing is this, and then we broke it to the upside, failed, and now we could easily do this and come back. And that would be the most bullish scenario in my eyes, but it would obviously suck for everyone that holds it because that would mean we would go below 28K. But yeah, if it does that, right? So we have the false breakout to the upside here, out of the range, goes all the way back down, falls back out of the range here, goes all the way back up, and then you can have like a really, really solid uptrend from there. That would be my favorite kind of setup. Not entirely sure if that's going to happen. I wouldn't want to bet on it. But if it does happen, I'm going to be ready to take advantage of it. So that's the answer to the title. I think it's short and comprehensive, makes sense. That said, obviously, it doesn't really make much sense to be bearish as long as we're still holding the support. Because even though this is, like I said, it's not a good sign that it's retesting support, it's still support, right? You don't want to be fading into support, which basically just means you don't want to be shorting into the most obvious and pretty much last level that we have. Because what else is left, right? If we lose 44K, you don't really have any support left until 30. So this is the last support and the most important one. It doesn't really make much sense to be too bearish into it. But obviously testing it twice in short succession and testing it even though we had a bunch of really, really good news is not the best sign. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Do you think we're short set up soon? Yeah, if we start closing below 44, like let's say we go towards 42K like this and then bounce a little, you basically short the first bounce. I mean, I cannot. You're just going to have to do this all by yourself. But basically having a stop here and having a target here is a decent setup at that point, right? So let's say we start validating bulls, and this is not something you should be doing right now. This is like legitimately if the next 3 days go poorly and then we get a bounce and you short into the bounce, whatever that may be, you have a stop loss up here, you have a target out down there, and you have a really good risk reward setup that has a high likelihood of playing out, right? That's your short setup. But right now, you basically still have a long setup. It's just one that I would not be comfortable taking. It's too often tested, the 44K region. But basically your long setup is, did I change this? Yes. Is you long here, you have a stop as a close below the level and your target is up here. And hard stop loss is pretty hard to do here, but like roughly this. This is your long setup right now. And this is still in play, technically speaking. It's just a very, very shaky one. So yeah, it's basically your long setup getting invalidated starts the short setup, right? So that's how I would play it anyway. But like I said, the long setup is a pretty shitty one. The short setup isn't bad, in my opinion. So if you're bull by heart, you can take the long setup here. and hope that 42K holds and have a stop at like 40-ish. So yeah, it's breaking down right now. Yeah, but I mean, this is intraday, right? So we're seeing these like 5-minute candles and everyone's freaking the fuck out. But technically speaking, this is still daily support. And daily support is like 44.4K. And that's not that far away. Like, it's not really hard to go back to 44K. Like, just look where that is. 44.4. It's just here. And then it's like, that's just 0.89%, basically 1% move to take it back to daily support. But yeah, it doesn't look good in my opinion. Especially doesn't look good because Sailor bought, what was it, 45.7? Like he bought somewhere here. Probably bought like a bunch in this. I didn't quite look into when he bought exactly, but probably bought a bunch in this stretch and then a little bit higher up as well. So you had Sailor do some of this move, or maybe this one. Like I said, I didn't look exactly into which one he was, but he bought in this 45.7 range. And market immediately faded him basically, which is not a good look. Where does all the sellers come from? Forced sellers that bought at top? No, not necessarily. I mean, I've been selling ETH just based on the fact that I've been able to realize my NFTs into ETH, and then I've sold ETH into USD just based on the fact that I didn't like how Bitcoin looked. And I mean, a bunch of people that bought lower, that looked at this retest and then sold into the 46K region, just basically did the same thing, right? I saw a bunch of people de-risking stuff that they bought lower at like 35 to like 40K, just based on the fact how the chart looked. And not only that, but you look at the S&P and that looks completely atrocious. And then it makes more sense, right? People are just like, okay, the S&P looks really shit. We're still, and this is kind of funny because people always forget, right? We're still in this global situation that is really, really unpredictable. Every time the S&P moves up, people are like, haha, Bitcoin's decorrelated and everything is good again. But like the global situation hasn't changed, right? Supply chains are still fucked. We still have a war going on. We still have like countries like Germany start putting in massive amounts of their money into fucking war weaponry and like missile defense and all of that kind of garbage, which I mean just goes to show how uncertain the times are right now, right? And you have all of that going on, and then people are surprised when the markets just go wild. And I mean, you got to realize, right? A bunch of people are like, okay, I have no idea what is going to happen. So I just want to decrease my risk. It doesn't even have to mean that they sell spot. It just means they take less leverage positions. Or maybe they sell like their 100% net worth into crypto and they're like, fucking hell, I'm not entirely sure if this is a good idea while the world is as it is. And then they sell. Like there's a bunch of reasons for people to sell. But yeah, obviously you're going to see the biggest selling going into daily support. And it's just how it always happens. But yeah, it's not the best level, but it's a level. It's not one that I would be willing to short into, is what I'm saying. Sailor is the Giga top symbol. I mean, he tends to buy the tops, yeah. At least the short-term tops. He's still up a shitload. The duck weekly support is at 43K-ish. I know it's bad, as that means going back into ascending triangle on daily, but technically still weekly support. So with the weekly support, right, I talked about this briefly. So if we retest 42 to 43K, right, this weekly support here, I would not, the thing is, if this candle closed at the boundary, usually I'd be like, okay, this is a perfect retest, this is fine, right? In this instance, it's not fine because it would invalidate the daily bullish setup. So what can happen when you have this kind of setup where weekly support is below the daily, what can happen is you can wick into weekly support, right? We could easily in the next 4 days go all the way down to 42K and then bounce and just have that like wick from 44 to 42k be a wick also on the daily, right? I could imagine today be the day where you just go down 10% towards like 42k and then have like a strong bounce and close back at or near 44k. So that's kind of how you can have that play out. But yeah, it's quite far away. So I think in this instance, the daily is just more important, even though the weekly is usually time hierarchy wise, usually the more important one. In this instance, the daily is just a clearer one. So you basically use weekly resistance and daily support. Where's Cred? Cred is at his place. I mean, Mondays it's Cred, Wednesdays it's me, and then Friday it's us both together. That's just basically how it works. I'm sorry to disappoint you if you're only here for Cred. Can we do some intraday examples, please? Nah, I'm the wrong guy to ask for that. I don't really trade leverage anymore. So like the 4 hour and stuff is just it's very, very choppy nowadays, so it doesn't really matter to me. And two, I mean, I couldn't be asked. I'm not trading it right now, so yeah, this is as intraday as you're gonna get from me. It's a show that I host weekly, right? If I talk about intraday stuff, I could never update on it because it'd just be gone by next time. How is dating? Oh shit, people are bored with the market already and are going back to the personal questions. Dating is fine. Maybe we'll talk about it at the end of the show. So that's that. With regards to ETH's in an interesting position because it's retesting the breakout and it looks much, much stronger than Bitcoin. I expected it to go to 3K. There's still some room for that left. That has to hold though. You do not want to see it break above 3K and then lose it again. But yeah, the bullish setup for ETH is basically, which is interesting because it kind of co-aligns with Bitcoin going towards 42. Is buying at 3K, targeting 4, right? That's like a decent setup. If everything goes to shit, obviously ETH is going to shit as well, but that's the best setup that I can think of, a bullish one. You basically buy 3K, hope for 4K, and have your stop below the lows. Why not use leverage if you can clearly mark out your invalidation and that's your stop loss? Because like I said, tax-wise, it's a nightmare for people from my country. So I don't use leverage anymore. I used to use it all the time. Right now, not so much. Maybe personal question, but have you ever worked a day job and do you still have it or just do crypto? I just do crypto. I've worked during my university days at smaller jobs. I did a bunch of smaller jobs, but nothing major. And then I straight went into crypto, got lucky, made a bunch of money, could live off of that, and have been doing it ever since. Change countries? Nah, I'm quite happy where I am. Sleepy? Nope, not really. So yeah, ETH, that's kind of the setup. You want a 3K to hold. If 3K breaks, you legitimately target 2K. That's just how this goes, right? So 3K broke to the upside. So now you want 3K to turn into support and then you target 4K. If that fails, right, and you start losing 3K again, you just target 2K. And if 2K fails, I mean, we don't talk about it because then we go to the lows of the lows. I mean, there's zero fucking support between 400 and 2K. So we don't talk about that area because that is not something to talk about, especially when ETH is so strong, right? ETH has been really, really strong in comparison to Bitcoin, which is a bad sign, in my opinion. Every time it happens, every time ETH goes up like this and Bitcoin goes like this and then jumps up to kind of follow ETH, but smaller, what usually happens is ETH goes up even more and then fucking mega dumps and Bitcoin just dumps in general. And then we're down 30, 40, 50% and everyone wonders why. ETH dragging up the market is not good in comparison to Bitcoin dragging the market. It's very rare instances where ETH leads the market and kind of drags it up and then Bitcoin just follows and takes momentum from it and just starts going. It's very, very rare. More often than not, it's just ETH goes and then Bitcoin just goes to shitter. Shouldn't we be buying support right now? Yeah, you can. I mean, like I said, this is daily support. You should not be shorting into it. It's just you're basically buying the same level again. So you bought here, like a bunch of people bought here. This is a retest, and then you're buying it again just a few days later. Usually when you have a level, right? You have a level. Oh, we don't need this. All boomer coins anyway that no one checks on. You have a level. You have price smash through it. At some point it retested, it bounces. That's fine. If it goes up and then retests again at a later date, whatever, that's fine, right? But something that you don't want to be seeing is it goes immediately back to the level where it came from, right? This shows weakness. This is fine, right? This is just how, like, this could be neutral. This is just a normal level. At that point, if it makes a new high, or in general just has some time between this test and the next one. But if a level gets hit over and over and over and over again, that's usually a bad sign. It means like everyone that wants to buy there gets to buy it, and then at some point you run out of buyers and sellers take over. And then you smash the level, and everyone that bought the level is underwater, so they get all get squeezed. Everyone that bought the level because they thought the level would not break, and then you have a massive down move. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're retesting this, but it's the second test. And we've talked about this before. First test, good test. Second test, still a good test. Third test starts getting iffy. Fourth test, you don't want to be doing anything with it, right? So if this bounces and then retests again, I mean, at that point, fucking get the fuck out. Just expect it to completely omega nuke and break down. At this point, you can still buy it. 44K is still buyable. I think it's a mistake to fade the merge, but who knows when it actually releases. With the merge, I think you buy it for the narrative, and then you sell before, and you just see how it goes. Like, you don't want to have anything to do with it 2 or 3 days after the merge, and then like at that point, once that's through and it's gone well or not well, you can still make up your mind. But basically, you have a news event when this is a timeline, right, in crypto. No one knows anything before this time. A merge or any news gets kind of like released to insiders or to like community members or whatever, people in the know. This is where you want to be buying it. The further down the line you go, the worse the buy gets. And then this is the event, right? This is where the event is. And the further you go, the worse it gets, but you can still buy it like at this point, further down the line. But the closer you get, there's like a 7-day period, right? So 7 days before the event that you absolutely do not want to have anything to do with it, right? So 7 days before the event, this is where you want to be selling. And funnily enough, what usually happens is people see this, they disregard it. They see this, they're like, I'm too late. And then 7 days or like roughly a week before, they're like, ah, fuck, I should have bought the first 2 things. I'm going to be buying now, and I still have 7 days till the event. And usually what happens is, during this time, is insiders buy, price goes up, and then smarter traders buy that didn't know what was going on, and it goes up even more, and then maybe goes sideways. And then you're like, ah, fuck, I should have bought these 2. And then it starts dumping into event, and then you get event volatility, whatever. And then you either go down or you go up. But like this kind of stretch is a shitty stretch to buy. So you want to be buying early if you get to. If not, you want to be buying before the traders do. And you absolutely do not want to be buying like roughly a week before. And then afterwards, like it could go up, it could go down, depending on how it goes. Usually it goes down in crypto after news. But if it's like just general normal news, it usually goes down like roughly 7 days before, 7 to 14 days before the event. So there you go. So what I would recommend, even if you're like mega bullish, buy it early, bet on your conviction, and then sell it into the event and then buy it back afterwards. Don, do you have a crypto stack that you never sell? Not anymore, no. I used to always. Now that we have Bitcoin at 40K and ETH at like 4K, I just feel like it's not something I would necessarily need to invest in. I think there's other stuff that I that I can put my money better to use. So like I just look elsewhere. And right now, given the market doesn't look too enticing to me, I mean, when I sold, I basically, for the people that haven't been around, I mean, I guess there's not that many, but I basically sold the 60K breakdown, right? I was like, this is bullish. Once we started moving up here into like the 36, 37K region, I was like, this is bullish. And I was like bullish pretty much the entire way up. And I was still bullish above 60K, right? So I was like, this is bullish. Unless it's a false breakout, then it's very bearish, and that's going to be confirmed below 60K, right? I mean, for the people that have been listening for the last half an hour, should sound very, very familiar, right? And then we lost 60K, and I was like, okay, fuck, it's just bearish. This is bearish. And so I started selling, right? And I sold pretty much everything. Prices went down. I sold pretty much everything besides actually NFTs, which actually didn't do too poorly. We'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, so prices went down. And I mean, that's basically, the market still hasn't recovered from that and still doesn't look too good, right? It's at best a range. So I don't need to invest in a range. I can pick better stuff. And even being in dollars is quite nice given how volatile everything is. So if shit hits the fan in one way or another, I will have enough money on the sidelines to buy. And that's kind of my first priority. I want to be liquid first and foremost, and then I want to have like decent investments. And right now, like the liquidity is more of a concern to me than anything else. And yeah, if this turns out the same way, it's going to play out the same way, in my opinion. And then you're going to get a breakdown and you're going to be able to buy it cheaper. And maybe I'll be buying back a stack that I want to hold there. I think if we break towards 25K, then I'm going to be building a portfolio again, like a crypto portfolio, because I think at that point, altcoins would be down 50, 60, maybe 70% lower than they are right now against Bitcoin. And then obviously lost 50% on top of that against the USD because Bitcoin is down. So at that point, prices would be interesting to me again. Like if I could be buying Bitcoin at 20, 25K, that'd be interesting to me. Right now, it's just a range, right? And I don't need to buy in the middle of the range. And I don't need to invest in the middle of a range either. So yeah, pretty boring positioning for me. And I've been playing it very, very lazily. There have been setups that I could have taken that I have not been. And that's just me protecting myself from doing stupid mistakes. So I sold in the 50s and now taxes suck. Yeah, I mean, that's just how taxes work. Just get fucking railed every time. So yeah, there you go. That's that. With regards to, I think I talked about ETH enough. I think, did I finish my 4? Yeah, I did. So 3K has to hold. As long as it holds, expect 4K. And I also talked about the merge. I talked about ETH BTC. Yeah, nice. So yeah, we can talk about NFTs real quick. The lessons I've learned basically is you don't want to be buying, like with NFTs, they can move against the other market cycles, right? So Bitcoin went down, ETH went down, NFTs went up. And that made me a bunch of money. Like NFTs went up a lot. ETH went down. I still ended up in the dollar plus. But the biggest problem I had with NFTs, right? So I bought a bunch and you kind of with NFTs, you just buy too much, right? It's just so easy to buy to buy too much. You just have spare E flying around. You just push it into some NFTs that you like. And then the biggest mistake that I made during my, I don't know, like 6 months of NFT trading was buying rares. Like you want to be buying the floor, because the floor is actually quite liquid, right? You buy like a project, it dumps, you can still kind of sell the floor. So like the NFTs with like no rare trades, no like the easy to sell stuff, right? The stuff that is just like you have 9,000 of them, they're all the same, and you have like 1,000 of rarer ones, right? And if it starts dumping, you're gonna be able to sell them by just undercutting the floor a little bit, and people are gonna pick them up. The problem with rares is that you buy them, even if you buy them during a dump, right? You're gonna be hard pressed to sell them again if prices go down. The only way that you can get out of rare ones, so especially for profile pictures, obviously, is by market going up, right? You need the number to go up to be able to sell the rare ones, and then sometimes if there's no one that's actually hunting for them, you still don't make the multipliers that the floor made, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it doesn't really make much sense to buy the rares. You just rather buy the floor ones, especially given that there's now ways to buy a bunch of NFTs at the same time, right? It used to be like you had to click on every single one, and then it's just nice to buy the more expensive one because you don't have to spend like a fucking hour sitting there like an idiot buying the floor up. You can just buy one more expensive one and then go from there. But nowadays you can just use services that just let you sweep the floor and buy 50 NFTs at once. So like that's the biggest lesson I've learned, that the rares just kind of suck unless they're massively mispriced. And yeah, I mean, with the NFTs, another lesson I've learned is basically everything that's sold quickly. So I just basically tried to sell everything, and everything that sold quickly actually went up afterwards. There's a bunch like Azukis, for example, I sold that went up like 3x after I sold them, if you count in the airdrop. And then there's a bunch of stuff that didn't sell easily that I had to fight hard for, and that basically went down more than 50% after I sold. So I mean, goes to show you, whenever you have like a project where there's liquidity, I mean, obviously going to perform better. So you can kind of see how well a project is doing by just seeing how quickly stuff gets picked up that is mispriced and is like below the floor and stuff. So that's the NFT lessons, the two most important ones. I'm pretty much done with it. I still have like a few that I cannot sell because markets are too illiquid. Overall, went out with plus, learned a bunch, good times. Definitely would do again at some point, maybe down the road. You sound like Peter Brandt. Nice. I'll take that as an insult. No, I don't know what to take that as, but it is what it is. Okay, so that's that. Any other questions? We can do like an AMA kind of thing. With regards to the other altcoins, just everything looks like shit. It's unsurprising to me. Like yesterday, everyone was like, okay, these coins are gearing up for something. And if you remember last week when I said this is all just like bearish retests so far, how weird that looked back then because everything was green, and now we have everything down 10% ish on the day, and everything looks like a bearish retest now. I don't think there's much to talk about even on the popular ones. We can talk about Luna and stuff, because that keeps pushing all-time highs. But I think there's no better description than the one that we gave on Technical Roundup, the newsletter, this week. So just basically yesterday, which is basically as long as we're holding this Bitcoin Luna BTC level, which is 0.002, and the Luna USD level, which is here 100, we're all good. Right? So as long as we're holding this, Luna is bullish. If we start losing $100, the entire market is probably going to shit, including Bitcoin, including everything else. So it doesn't really make much sense to be too bearish unless we start losing $100. Okay. Jesus, you already hit me with the questions. Nice. How do you feel about Lux? Lux in itself is pretty cool. The problem I have with Lux is that you have a bunch of influencers that got mega rich with it, but that haven't really, this is a nice retest, that haven't been able to sell, obviously, right? So for the people that don't know, Lux had like a seed round, or like a kind of, they basically had a bunch of influencers and a bunch of, crypto Twitter personal, whatever, crypto Twitter people invest early, that got a really good cheap price. I think price was, I don't want to say it because it's low 0 point something, and all of those people still have it because it's vested, right? So it takes a while for them to unlock and to be able to get it. And once that unlocks, and that's going to be in a while, it's still not close, but in a while, I assume that a lot of them are just going to market dump because it's a lot of money for them, right? That's the problem I have with Lux. Otherwise, I mean, I like Lux as like an idea, but I haven't, price-wise, it's really tough. And this is just a bearish retest from basically listing, ran into resistance, failed the support, failed the next support, and now we're here. TA-wise, there's not that much more to say. Like, the moment you got rejected by 2.7, that's where the trouble begins, and then you start selling if it starts losing 2.2, which it did, and now it's at 1.7. So, yeah. Dating life corner. I mean, the dating stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure like the vocal majority, is gonna be like, yeah, talk about dating, and then there's gonna be like 90% that don't talk. They're like, fucking hell, no one gives a shit. And I mean, I totally get that. I wouldn't give a shit either. So, do you prefer blondes or brunettes? I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. Waves. Okay, that's an interesting topic to talk about. So waves went down a shitload. And the thing is, if you see a founder, like if you're heavily invested in a project and you see the founder talk about shorts or about price or about any of that kind of shit, you want to run as far away as quickly as you can, because that is usually the sign that it's going to rug pull badly. Right? Whenever the founders get involved in the memes about price, when founders start like hailing themselves as hero, being like, I'm gonna bring you salvation, fucking run. It's the worst thing that can happen. It's like the biggest red flag. For some reason, every time that happens, market just fucking rug pulls. It's always been the case. 95% of the time, there's very rare instances where that doesn't happen, and those instances are pretty obvious, right? So for example, with Solana, when Solana was trading at $3, and Sam said, sell me all the Solana that you want at free and fuck off, basically. That is pretty obvious, because like he didn't say it because he didn't post about it on his timeline. He just said it because he was pushed by someone, right? And that's like an obvious kind of, okay, this is a go button, like, right? You gotta kind of buy it. Just makes sense. But if you have like your founder fucking meme about price on his timeline and do stupid shit, then you want to run. And in this instance, that's what kind of happened. You had like the Waves founder just post about it a bunch, and obviously this kind of smelled like a Ponzi, how it worked. The entire like Waves basically using their stable coin to push it up, allegedly, whatever. I don't want to get in trouble legally, so I'm not going to talk about that too much, but it just looked very Ponzi-ish, and yeah, now it's imploding, right? So Neutrino, the Waves stable coin, whatever, depegged, went all the way down to 0.6, bounced a bit, is now like weak again. I would not want to be touching any of this. If anything, and this is like something that, I mean, if you have to trade this, it makes sense to trade it on the short side, but only with a tiny, like I see people leverage the shit out of the entire portfolio and short shit like this. This could easily bounce from 28 to like all the way back to 44 or something, and then still go to fucking zero after, right? So if you short this kind of stuff, you do it with a small part of your portfolio, because chances are it's gonna go further down than this, but chances also are this goes to like higher numbers to liquidate everyone else that is betting their entire portfolio on a wave short of all things. So newsletter bull, Don Bear, collecting cloud no matter what, disgusting. I mean, I said be bullish until 44k fails, to be fair, on both the newsletter and this stream. Craig's already throwing fucking shade at me again. So technically speaking, we're at support. So like if you're shorting this, I don't know what you're doing. If we lose it, fucking nuke it to 30k. That's all I'm saying. That's my entire thesis for this thing. And it looks fucking weak at support, but yeah. Well, the difference is Sam wasn't founder of Solana. Also, I'm also concerned about Do Kwon betting on price. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's also, but then again, you kind of know, like Sam and Solana very, very close. But yeah, obviously also the case. But yeah, they're probably like, it doesn't really make much sense to kind of say, okay, they're separate entities because they're very, very close together. But yeah, that is what it is. That was obviously very, very different. Now, there's instances where it works out, where the founder just like talks about price and then price actually goes up for a while. But it's just like it's something that you don't want to be seeing. It's a red flag in any case. It's going to nuke. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, my gut feeling is it's going to nuke. My TA feeling is 44k is support, so you want to be at least bullish until that breaks. That's kind of because the thing is, it's really, really like with Bitcoin, right? It's you can be bearish at 43k really easily because then you have like a solid invalidation in the 46k range. You have a solid target of like 30k, or if you're like super bad target, even lower. Like that's a really nice place to be bearish. Right now, if you're bearish, your invalidation is basically up here as well, but the chances of it playing out are much, much smaller because you're shorting right into support, right? And there's a chance that this goes up and then still loses to support and still goes down. And then you're kind of like the idiot that shorted support before it went up, and then you probably longed into this resistance as well, and then it breaks down and you're fucked. Instead of just shorting when it actually starts breaking down. And as you can see, people take a while to get like the message. In this instance, took them like what, like 2 weeks or so. Yeah, almost 3 weeks until they kind of noticed, oh shit, this actually broke down. This might actually be bad, right? And this is gonna not be as long, but there's a chance that it's gonna be 3 days or 4 days where people don't actually realize that it's actually broken down, right? And then you can short lower and have like a better invalidation, better chances of playing out, and so on. Dawn and I DM'd each other at yesterday's Pico Top, saying top right after writing bullish. Bias above 44k in the newsletter. I feel sick, fraudulent, the room is spinning. It's actually a true story. I would pull it up, but I don't want to dox anything. It's actually true though, but yeah, I mean it's still like the same play is 44k, being bullish about 44k. That doesn't change the fact that my gut feeling has been bearish for a while now, And I mean, I think that's been pretty obvious from the tweets I've been posting. So yeah, that's that. Best time frame for identifying trend breakdown? 4 hour? No, the daily. Daily is the earliest I would kind of consider as like a trend breakdown. Can we get an hourly newsletter? I mean, with Tread's writing speed, you might be able to get one. The guy just dishes out like we just. I give him my notes. He gives me my his thoughts, and then we just discuss them. And then he writes fucking 10 pages in 10 minutes. Nah, not 10 pages in 10 minutes, but literally 10 pages in fucking 1 hour, and I have no idea how. It's fucking mind-boggling. So yeah, that's that. I think we're derailing a little bit. I had like such a nice structure to the stream, and now it's all gone. Fucking cred shows up, ruins my flow. NFT newsletter that updates constantly. Yeah, with the NFTs, like I said, I'm over it. I've taken the bubble with me. I've taken the lessons that it's given. Could go up, could go down. I don't really give a shit. I still have, like I said, I still have a bunch, and I kept like one-offs for some of them. And I have a bunch of wussies still. But yeah, I'm over the NFT side of things. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Kind of rekindled NFTs kind of felt like the 2017 altcoins. Probably going to end up like the 2017 altcoins as well. But yeah. The duck is easily distracted with shiny objects. That is true. That is very true. So many shorts still up at 50k needing to get taken out before 28k comes. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't feel like there's many shorts or longs in this space. People are not leveraging. Yeah, it's just how it is. Like, there's not that much short interest. There's not that much long interest. People are just scared. And we're just going to trade the S&P, basically. The S&P goes up. I can tell you, like, you see a bunch of green candles here, right? I can tell you, switch over to Bitcoin. We can even do the side by side, right? And people always meme about, haha, decoupling, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this is the 5 minute. Now look at this shit, decoupling, right? Oh, what a surprise. The exact low on Bitcoin was set when the S&P made its low. Wow, we've decoupled. This is fucking magic. And now, like, wow, like, this is just stupid, man. This is just, like, legitimately, we're just trading this fucking thing. Yeah, is what it is, right? Is what it is. If anyone says decouple to you, hit them in the face. Because every time people do it, the fucking market dumps. Wonder why Bitcoin went down in the last few days? Because people have been saying fucking decoupling at the top. It's the only reason why we've been going down. Because every single time someone says decouple, price goes down by 10 fucking %. Market is at support at 43.8 and you're calling short. Why not at 48.5k? Dude, are you even listening? Are you even listening to what I'm fucking losing my mind. I'm like, I like legitimately pull up the long fucking thing and said, this is the setup that we're in right now. Like, legitimately down here. I said, like, this is the setup that we're in right now. If we lose 44k, the setup turns from that into fucking this. Did I say that or did I not say that? Like, like, I'm legitimately feel like sometimes like 10% of the audience is just completely brain dead, and the other 90% are amazing people. And the fucking the 10% make me lose my fucking mind every time. This is the trade that we're in basically right now. Like this is the two trade setups that you have. You're long biased until 44k gets closed below, and then if we do close below, you're short biased unless we start coming back above 46. That's the setup. And why I didn't say 48k is a short is because there's no fucking resistance there. It just turned around because people said it's decoupling from the S&P. It's the only reason. There's no fucking lines that I can draw there that made the price go down. Yeah. Either way, I'm just having fun. Don't mind me. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. Probably just missed that part. Don't swear, don't kids watch this. It's a candlestick coloring show after all. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to every 5-year-old that watches this. So we decided in the coin flip? No. Am I like speaking Chinese? You're long, like if you want to be in a trade right now, you're long from the support. Like if you absolutely have to be in a trade, you're long from the support. If we lose it, then the setup is failed, and then you can short it or just don't do shit, right? That's kind of how it is. Long right now, yeah, that is what it is. Fucking hell. Don angry, Pico bottom signal. No, I'm just having fun. Can you give us dating tips? Dude, I'm legitimately pretty sure that if I turn my entire Twitter and this entire crypto channel into dating advice, they actually do better. But I'm probably not the guy you want dating advice from, because, I mean, I can do the first date, and I can do the second date, and then the third date, and then I don't fall in love, and then it's like, next. That's how my life goes. So, yeah. Dating advice from someone like that, probably not the best idea. Kret says, yeah, same, totally. More dates than a fucking calendar, mate. Oh, man. Kret's been having to suffer through my shit. It's been bad. I feel a little bit bad. I've been sending him screenshots of conversations that no man other than me should be seeing. I feel bad. He's been having to suffer through a bunch of shit because of me. Maybe try dating humans instead of ducks. How would that work? A duck dating a human? That makes no sense. Have we talked equities yet? No, we haven't. I mean, we talked about it briefly. In general, right? So even though this closed above resistance, I still tend to think this is an area of resistance, because, I mean, you could also just draw it like this, right? And then have it like this. This is the more recent one. So it's an area of resistance. I noted as much last week. And I think you don't want to be too bullish into that. And then you want to see how this week and next week turns out. But there's a good chance. Like, if you want to be bearish anywhere, it's close to here, because, I mean, it's very close to making a new high while still having bearish market structure. So the S&P doesn't look too good to me. But obviously depends on what kind of news comes out, what kind of rate hikes we get, all that kind of stuff. Which is not to my expertise, but chart-wise, this is usually, like, this is how stuff tops in my experience. But with, like, in general, like, I tend to ignore this, and then just whenever, and this is, like, legitimately, this is what I do. I look at this, I look at GME, right? And whenever a GME spikes and goes up, I am just, in general, I tend to think that everything else is going to go down. Because when the GME idiots are winning, you want to be bearish, because that's near top. And then when GME apes start losing again, then you can at some point, when the pain gets too much, then you can at some point kind of flip that around. But in general, like when GME goes up too far, you want to be bearish on stocks or everything else. In my experience, anyway, just yeah. Doge also pumping, yeah. I mean, Doge just caught the meme pump, which was basically Elon Musk joining Twitter. I would disregard that as any signal. Don, you start a dating channel. I'll do a lifting channel, and maybe we actually get somewhere that way. I mean, it would actually work. I don't know if you guys have seen Cred's pictures, but fucking hell, it's a beast. It's a beast. I cannot show up with him anymore. I look like a fucking beanpole. So, Don, what size is size? Whatever size. I mean, size is just size, dude. Anyone that says your size is not size is a fucking idiot. No offense to Do Kwon. But like anyone that says that is just a fucking asshole. Disregard anyone that says something like that. Disregard anyone with an attitude like that, because you know that they're just talking about that. Like, I mean, everyone starts somewhere, right? And if you insult people for being at the start of the journey and not at the end of the journey, it's just sad. It's just sad. So just ignore everyone that acts like that. And the question doesn't matter, because you start where you start and then you push it as far as you want or can, and that's your thing. And if that's like a fucking sexual joke, then I mean, get help. We haven't met in 3 years. Long may it last. Yeah, I mean, I've tried. By God, I've tried to meet you. Don, are you golfing again this year? Yes, I will be. So, okay. Any last questions? Because I gotta go. I'm gonna be a good friend of mine's birthday is today, and he's gonna show up in like 5 minutes or so. So I'll take 1 or 2 more questions, and I'm gonna run like the wind. Kretz ripped Jesus. Old people are crazy these days. Yeah. You would not believe that he's 60 when you see him. When you watch this, I don't know, like I like this. I don't use it at all. Like I legitimately only use these. I do not use this, like I just type it in, whatever I want to look at. But I don't know, it's just, I love how this triggers people. So I don't know. I'm too lazy to make a new one. And I don't know, this just kind of makes me happy. Seeing this old picture, and especially seeing it when they're down minus 10% or something, just makes my day. Did I understand correctly that you're against an entity holding a lot of Bitcoin? Why is it bad for Luna to do so and not exchanges that have to sell their holdings? It's the same thing. Like I don't like too many coins in exchange hands as well, because the point of this entire thing is that it's decentralized and it's not like that. There's no like big attack vector, right? When you have like, imagine 90% of Bitcoin was held by exchanges or 95%. If you then fuck with exchanges, you basically cripple the entire thing. And then what's the point, right? If you can just do that, what's the point? And same is obviously true if someone holds 25% of the Bitcoin that are out there, which as far as I know, I mean, yeah, it's like 25 to 50%. At that point, what's the point of the entire thing? Because if that person just sells it, it's going to zero, right? And it makes the entire thing less valuable, even if there's less like other supply floating around. Like you would say, okay, 50% is held by this and that person, so it cannot go down because that person's never gonna sell. But if he sold, I mean, we're just going to fucking zero, and that is a bad thing, obviously. So you want to have it distributed like roughly, like at least nicely distributed in some way. You don't want to have 10 people hold all of it and then kind of dictate where it goes, because that is kind of how we live then, right? If 10 people hold most of it, it's just, what's the difference between Bitcoin at that point and how the world is run right now? Because there's not that much of a difference then, right? Half your watch list is delisted. Yeah, if you sort of roll down, like, it's fucking everything's delisted, which is a good lesson, right? You have stuff long enough in your watch list and it gets delisted. That's the lesson right there, but folks. Wasn't Neutrino USDN not a free buy? I mean, it can easily go to zero. So, from what I understand anyway, so not necessarily a free buy. Why do traders always use the BitMEX chart? It's basically the same reason why I have this fucking old school watch list. It's a habit. BitMEX was the most accurate. I used to use Bitfinex, and then Bitfinex was kind of inaccurate, closed weirdly, and wasn't really nice. And then I switched from Bitfinex to the BitMEX chart, and that always did the trick, and it still does the trick. So, like right now, you can kind of see how all the exchanges trade the same values. Back in the day, that was not the case. And back in the day, BitMEX was the most accurate. Nowadays, they all trade the same, so it doesn't really make a difference. Even though BitMEX isn't the market leader anymore, it doesn't really matter to me too much charting it, because it's still gonna trade in lockstep with everything else. So yeah, there you go. If you close at 44.4k today, does it mean it has hold? It just means that the bullish setup is still in play. Yeah, it's obviously not best sign that you tested twice, but it's, yeah, you want to see it close at or above 42.4k today. 44.4 is what I said, right? There you go. Hope that helped. Hope you had fun. I mean, it was a little bit all over the place, but I mean, fun regardless, I think. I had fun anyway. Appreciate the sponsor of the show, which is FTX, best mobile trading app in the game, in my opinion. If you're using mobile, you should check it out. Links to FTX are in the description. Appreciate you guys coming by. We'll see each other relatively soonish, and I mean, I'll be around on Twitter. I've been having fun making people angry. I don't think that's gonna stop, at least not in the next few days. So I'll be around. I'll see you around. Have a nice Wednesday, and see you soon. Bye bye.